Carts are rolling now for the Sportsman Division in the 7th seed on our lineup on the day. Parker Ives and Daniel Dragunov will lead your field to green. These two, they drove away by, I think, more than any other pair last night under the lights. I mean, they were a testament to what you can do if you trust the driver that you want to work with. They'll line up on the front row here with the Nitro Karts of Aston Wyatt and Gavin Dyer back behind them on row 2.
Yeah, I got a chance to speak with Cade Wolf this morning. He feels like his go-kart's pretty good. He's just going to have to try to split the Nitro Kart pairing like Dragunov did under the lights last night. Keegan Irwin in P6, Hayden Lawson, Parker Stewart, row 4, Ryder Thompson, R.J. Brown, your top 10 drivers.
Back on to Milo Gibaldi there in 11th, Logan McCloskey in 12th, Jonathan Bore. We'll take a quick look here for you to be able to find your favorite driver down on the final few rows. And as you can see, Jason Burgess at the ready. We're green here with a first time by. How about that for Sportsman? But we've got contact and around right in front of the field. Cade Wolf in the 154. One more stuck with him. Two more off and into the dirt. Gavin Dyer is involved. So is the 904 Nitro Kart as well. Big lead to start it for Aston Wyatt and Parker Ives down the back straightaway.
I cannot believe that it's still the Nitro Kart pairing of Wyatt and Ives after all the chaos. That was Cade Wolf and that was Keegan Irwin. They were on row number 3, and they're going to be essentially out of this one, even if they can keep it going. But for Aston Wyatt, it was the dream start for him. And for Parker Ives, unintentionally got into the side there of Daniel Dragunov. I think he just slid a little bit too wide. That's one of those things, Xander, we were talking about where the marbles begin to form. You start on the inside row. It can be tough to have grip, and if you go in there with the same amount of roll speed as the guys on the outside, you might not have the grip that you'd expect to have in the opening lap there. Nonetheless, further back, that's the number 10 machine of Hayden Lawson going through on Jonathan Bohr. That's the battle for the final step on the podium.
Yeah, Hayden Lawson on the Paralympics been kind of on the cusp of a big results here today, trailing through the weekend, but he's been trailing kind of that last few spots at the top of the pylon. Same with a lot of the drivers right around him there. Logan McCloskey, we talked a lot about back at the Grands on the Ricardo kart. Let's see who else we can find here in this group, now led by Dragunov, trying to keep touch with the top two who are already beginning to break away. Move maybe at the back of the line on the 49 Intrepid. That's Smith side by side for the 10th position. Wyatt Smith and Wyatt Fink going at it, it looked like.
Milo Gibaldi, by the way, started outside the top 10, but with all the chaos that ensued on the opening lap, he's found himself in 4th on that bright orange and neon green go-kart, the 619 machine. You can't miss it if you tried, and he is all over the bumper of Daniel Dragunov. If these two can start to work together, they can maybe make some headway on the top 2, but I got to say, this is a nightmare stuff for the rest of the field. Nitro 1-2. I can guarantee they won't really fight that hard for the next 15 laps.
2 laps done so far, but it's a long way to go still, and if they have anything happen, well, you're going to see it. Let's go side by side down to pit lane with Caleb.
I saw my teammate back there, and I was like, I knew I had this. And so overall, I had a great race, and looking forward to next one.
And again, I mean, you got over-under there by Colin Wright in the heavy race. Did you know that move was coming from McKeithen and the rest of the guys that were going to try to over-under you in the second last corner?
No, I thought Colin was going to do it. Colin Warren. So I looked back, I saw him. I parked it on Apex, and so I wouldn't let it happen again. I didn't make that mistake again.
Yeah, 1-2 for recording to start off the weekend. What was that for this victory?
I think my whole family, SGK, of course, Bo Scurry, Jacob Duvall, Uncle Frankie, and Mike Capps.
We'll see you back on the racetrack for a senior medium.
Thank you.
You guys have from Owen Lloyd.
Good to hear from Owen in good spirits about how the day's going, not taking that first loss to heart. That he said, no, once I knew who was back there and what was going to happen, I wasn't going to let it happen again. That's the right mentality. 4 laps in the books here, 14 laps to go. Aston Wyatt and Parker Ives still locked together. Daniel Dragunov, this group here, Milo Gibaldi on that all-yellow comp cart, and then Hayden Lawson there on the Paralyn with a big leap forward this morning and into the afternoon now. Let's take a look at the movers and shakers here from this one. 7 up for Milo Gibaldi, a couple up for Hayden Lawson in that kind of methodical charge towards the top. Ryan Hall's up a good bit. Jonathan Bore. Again, remember we had all those spinners on the first lap. Cade Wolf, Ryder Thompson, Gavin Dyer from turn 1, lap 1. And that's given a big boost to kind of maybe 8th to 15th on back to pick up positions.
Yeah, we just saw a move there. Parker Stewart going down the inside of Andrew Adams there. That was the fight for 8th and 9th. R.J. Brown in the mix as well on that one. But back up front, a quick shout out there to Milo Gibaldi, actually. I mean, he started this race 11th. He just went purple, a 48.171, slightly quicker than the 2 leaders last time by. Let's see what it is this time, matching the pace of the 2 leaders. So right now for Dragunov and for Gibaldi, the best thing that these two can do alongside the number 10 of Hayden Lawson is continue to push each other. No need to make any moves. No need to make anything happen other than working together, because you can almost guarantee, you can write it in the book, Aston Wyatt, Parker Ives won't budge from their spots until the last lap. And there's 11 and a half laps to go. I would be surprised, unless there's an issue for one of those 2 drivers, that they do anything other than push each other. So for Daniel Dragunov, for Milo Gibaldi, all you can really ask for is more pace out of your go-kart here. And I got to give him credit, because as quick as Dragunov has been all weekend, Milo Gibaldi has been quick. He's been there. He's been a consistent top 10 finisher. But starting 11th in this main event, it's one of those things where he's a driver that maybe we didn't expect to be this far towards the front this early on in the race, but he has shown a really good pace. He went purple again, and they just took 2.5 tenths out of the lead. It's starting to close in. It's about 1.3 seconds as a couple drivers there, the 14 and the 74, come together on the final corner there. That's Charlie Conard and John Dwyer. That was the fight for 22nd and 23rd.
This time by, it'll be 8 laps complete, 10 laps to go. Oh, we got yellows flying, I think, in this section here, or it looked like it might have been. Yeah, yellow flags out. What for? 2 carts colliding. The 74 machine and the gold cart as
that was,
well.
That was John Dwyer and Charlie Conard there from the previous
lap. Yeah. So they still didn't have them cleared.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough, right? When you're in the middle of the racetrack, there's not a whole lot you could do with those go-karts to clear them, because it separates the final quarter from the first corner. So it's a tough situation for the CKNA staff to try to move that go-kart to a safe enough place. So I agree with the yellows being thrown out there. And for some of these sportsman drivers on our screen now, the number 9 there of Hall and Jonathan Bohr, the 28, I think Jonathan did a good decision to back out of that move last lap. Now he's going to make the move stick into the sweeper here. And unfortunately for Ryan Hall, he'll go from 6th to 10th.
Not ideal for the number 9. Can he maybe just push away, though, to stop it there? Because if he lets this battle open up any more, well, you can see that already, that there's more carts lined up behind him. 4 more to be exact, ready to go. Big move to the inside. This will keep him close. Parker Stewart in the number 2 is going to pick up another spot, move him up and into 6th. One driver who was impressive through a lot of last year was that BJR PPK entry. He's at least got himself back up to 2 spots net gained from what was a very shaky start that sent him down the board quite a ways. We'll come to the line now to put 10 down, 8 to go, and check it in on Dragunov and Gibaldi. It's just kind of stabilized, Alex. You mentioned how they picked up a 10th. They picked up a couple hundredths last time by. I don't know if they're picking up all too much more this time around, though. Let's see. Did it go down at all? Well, it did a lot. Oh, wow, it did a lot. Parker Ives took over the lead from Aston Wyatt, realizing that, well, they were not building a gap, and now they are well closer to 3rd and 4th. This group there, that 4-pack, still racing a good ways back. Hayden Lawson, unfortunately, has been kind of left all on his lonesome there in 5th.
Yeah, and lapping a couple of tenths slower than the guys behind him, Parker Stewart, R.J. Brown, Jonathan Bohr. This is a natural thing to see on this racetrack when you're by yourself versus drivers working together. It is pretty easy to lose ground, and then also easy to have the drivers behind you close in. Speaking of closing in, Daniel Dragunov has brought Milo Gibaldi into the mix. We just saw Parker Ives last time around get around Wyatt. He proved me wrong. I thought he'd wait to the white flag, but I think Parker Ives throughout the middle stage of the race kept looking back and realizing they're not pulling away to the extent that they thought they would. And so Parker Ives, smartly enough, put a go-kart between himself and the second group. Unfortunately, it's his teammate Aston Wyatt, but at the end of the day, you have to be a little bit selfish out there on the racetrack and just put yourself in prime position. And maybe it's one of those cases, Xander, you touched on it earlier on throughout the main events, of when you pass somebody before maybe expected. On our case, it's just one of those things where you feel like your go-kart's better leading than what Wyatt's was previously. So now, with Dragunov leading Milo Gibaldi, the only thing is he's starting to slightly pull away from Gibaldi, and that's the dilemma of being maybe slightly quicker than the guy behind you.
Yeah, for Daniel Dragunov, though, the only good part of him pulling away is it's partly, I think, due, Alex, just as much to the toe off the two in front. If he doesn't make a mistake, well, he's going to be able to maybe hang on to him, but there's no more safety net if you don't have a driver right on your bumper. Any mistake Dragunov makes, and those two will be back gone again, and this looks like this might have been the right call. You're still watching that gap kind of slowly inch down, but it's not going down as much as it was consistently before Daniel Dragunov got within the slipstream of these top two. So Parker Ives, he waited patiently behind Aston Wyatt, tried to push his teammate as far away from the field as he could. Ultimately, I think they may be a little better matched with this formation. And we mentioned earlier in Senior Light how, Isaac Malkuit being kind of a little bit shorter helps him. Parker Ives, a little bit shorter than Aston Wyatt, helps having the shorter driver out in front.
Yeah, it's a really good point you actually make there, and it might make sense why the likes of Wyatt's a better pusher here, but who knows? It could be just a setup situation. Who knows if they're on the same gear or not? So for Parker Ives, like you mentioned, it seems like this is the first time in about 3 laps that I've noticed the top two actually pull away from Dragunov. I think partly due to the fact that Dragunov, to his credit, is doing a great job even keeping within a tenth of the lap times the top two are running, considering Gibaldi is starting to slowly fade away here in that 4th place spot.
Yeah, Milo, I'll give him credit this lap, though. I think, Alex, he might have stopped it there at a full second. Let's see if it opened up at all. I think both he and Dragunov, and indeed, looked visually like they might have closed a little. They've closed enough. Check out all of the dirt and dust and debris offline there coming out of turn 2 through turn number 3. That's going to be something to keep an eye out for, especially when we get into the next division, the Masters class being the next ones to do a start through that sector. What will happen for the outside lane and potentially even the inside on the start to have to be on the outside then for turn 3 with all of that clag, as you mentioned, off the line.
It's no surprise that the last 2 to 3 starts that we've seen have become more and more chaotic. I think part of it's just due to the overall angst that the drivers have, right? The nerves, and just it's easy to make mistakes. It's also easy for drivers to feel like, okay, the grid is as bunched up as it's been, and so I need to make up some positions. But also with the marbles, I think unfortunately for Parker Ives, he didn't really mean to get into Dragunov on the opening stages of this race, but with the marbles building up on the inside of the racetrack and even on the outside throughout the S's as well, it's getting easier and easier to get into the driver next to you by accident. You don't even mean to. Now, with 2.5 laps to go, Milo Gibaldi is starting to really fade away here. He keeps making a good lap, and then he makes a mistake, and then puts a good lap together. But for Daniel Dragunov, he has been consistent. With nobody behind him the last 3 laps to push him, he's driven that new-gen machine up to the front, and now he's closed the gap to as close as he's been all race long.
Yeah, this is a testament of straight-up willpower right now here, Alex. 2 laps to go. Daniel Dragunov will not be denied from a chance to fight for the race win. The moment that Aston Wyatt finally pulls the pin and goes to the inside on Parker Ives for the race lead, well, it's all going to be a 3-car battle. And if Milo Gibaldi can just hang on, can just hang in there, keep the hope alive for maybe a little bit longer, he could spoil the party too. It all depends when the fight breaks out. Dragunov might even be able to get there beforehand as the hand signals start to flurry across that run by the scales. You saw a couple of the mechanics trying to motion to their drivers. Who's going to bail out first? We're coming to the white flag. Nothing in the last turn yet.
Well, I haven't seen Wyatt look back there. They look back for the first time in a couple of laps there. You can obviously sense the drivers behind you, but at this point, Ives knows it. He goes low, Wyatt goes low. No crossover opportunity there because it leads into this S section of the racetrack. But for Daniel Dragunov, he is in prime position, like you mentioned. Once Wyatt eventually decides he wants to go on Parker Ives, it's really going to depend on what Ives does. How low does he go? How low does Wyatt go? And where does Dragunov go? If I'm Dragunov, I go to the inside here. He's going to poke a nose. He's going to muscle his way through. And now there's one driver between Dragunov and an improbable victory.
Daniel Dragunov still needs a perfect corner here. Parker Ives, the last time he was at Charlotte Motor Speedway, walked away from a draft-based class. Now into the final turn. Dragunov's going to close in. It'll be a big run, but it'll be too little too late. Parker Ives wins again at Charlotte Motor Speedway. He dominates the Sportsman main event for the second half onwards, and Nitro Kart remains victorious here with Aston Wyatt joining his teammate on the podium in third. Milo Gibaldi fourth. Hayden Lawson at the very end. He was getting reeled in by the Marinello of R.J. Brown, but he just was able to stay ahead of that group, stay on his marks long enough to join the four in front of him on the Charlotte podium as he ends in fifth provisionally. Brown, Stewart, Bore, Ryan Hall, Logan McCloskey, your top 10. And let's take a look down the rest of the order here really quickly, folks. Down to Laney Thigpen and Gavin Dyer. Of course, we saw him have the troubles. John Dwyer, Charlie Connard, Ryder Thompson, all of your DNFs. 24 able to finish from the Sportsman division. We're going to take a break here, folks. 2 races remain. Masters on grid, Senior Medium.